June. So at the outset, I want to express my gratitude to our worthy Vice Chancellor, Dr. Inderjit Singh, for providing us an opportunity to organize this webinar. I want to further thanks our Dean, College of Veterinary Science, Dr. Prakash Brad. He is the PI of the Institute Development Program at Gadwasu, who encouraged us to organize this program under the aegis of the NAHCP. We are being really overwhelmed with the responses received from the participants. There were being around 800 registration for this national webinar on technological innovation and entrepreneurship development in animal byproducts. So out of these 800 registration, we have selected or screened out the 100. So you are the lucky 100 who are being joining with us. So in this program, we are having 3 experts. One is Dr. Vikas Pathak. He's a professor and head at Livestock Products Technology at Duwasu. That's the Mathura Veterinary College. And further, he is also taking care of the charge of the Directorate Student Welfare. And our second expert is the Dr. G.S. Meena. He's a scientist in the senior scale in National Dairy Research Institute at Karnal. And he's been taking care regarding the byproduct laboratory over there. And he's been working on the membrane technology. He has an experience of around 10 years over there. Then in the last, we have our industry expert, Mr. Harman Madon. He's basically a B.Tech engineer, and he has a very flourishing career in Tata Automobiles. There he was being an international consultant also, and he's been taking care about the quality assurance program and everything. He left that career and started his startup by the name of Madon Applied Sciences, and he is being basically his motto is value for the waste. And he is being carrying out many projects, not only in India, even the world over. And he has his presence felt in New Zealand, Australia, and other countries also. So 3 major experts are with us. So first, I just want to introduce you regarding the theme of the national webinar. As I told you, the national webinar is on the technological innovations and entrepreneurship in animal industry byproducts. So there are the 3 major in the dairy animal industries includes, that's the milk industry, meat industry, and then the egg industry, right? As we have a huge livestock population, we have around 536 million livestock animals are being there, and we are being #1 in the milk production with the 186 million tons of the milk is being produced. We are being second in the fish production also, third in the poultry, so eggs production, and fourth in the broiler production. The total meat production is being around 8.2 million tons meat is being produced. Now such a huge quantity of the livestock produce is being there, but their byproducts is a matter of concern. So if we see the dairy industry byproducts, there are the 3 major byproducts are being there. One is whey, which is being coming through the process of preparation of paneer, chana, or your co-precipitates, cheese. So it's one of the huge major concern regarding the byproduct and the industry is being there in the dairy, and almost 10 to 12% of the total milk being utilized for the production of the chana and the paneer, and the huge quantity around 6.25 million tons for the whey is being produced. And presently, majority of them are being sold or at a very, very nominal prices of 1 or 2 rupees to feed the animals, because it's one of the biggest source of the proteins. However, there are the 10 plants are being there in India, which are being producing the whey protein concentrates, whey protein isolates, or the different nutraceuticals out of that one. And the present estimation is that its value is 600 crore rupees. But there is a lot of scope is being there, and we can go even up to 30,000 crore rupees. So how we can reach to that 30,000 crore rupees mark? What are the features that will be taken care by Dr. Meena? He will elaborate on those issues. Second byproduct coming in the dairy industry is the skim and the buttermilk. And the skim and the buttermilk is majority of them is being utilized for the standardization of the market milk and development of the different produce also. And however, we can go for its higher value products also by the production of the casein, and its value can also be increased even up to 3,000 crore rupees. Ghee residues. Ghee residues we are being producing around 0.5 million tons of the ghee residues, and it's being fed generally to the animals, or something is being used in case of the soap industry also, and its value is being minimum to 150 crores, but it has a lot of scopes, lot of utilization, and we can earn a lot out of that. Then coming to the second aspect, the egg industry byproducts. It is literally, I speaking, is untouched area. We have around 103 billion eggs are being produced with a production of around 5.15 million tons. And around, as you know, that almost 80 eggs are being available to everyone. And the major byproducts, majority of the eggs are being used as a table eggs. Only 10 to 12% of the total eggs are going to the organized sector for the production of the egg liquids, egg powders, or maybe the bakery industry. So the collection of the eggshell, which is one of the biggest byproduct, is the 0.52 million ton is being produced. It's very, very difficult. And the majority is being either being sent to the thrown out, or 1 or 2% is being used as an animal feed in case of the poultry industry or maybe the piggery industry. And its estimated present value is being very less, around 20%. Our suggestion is that only 10% of this one means 0.05 million, means 500,000 kg of the egg shell can be utilized. Even then, it's one of the biggest source of the proteins and the calcium. Protein is being coming from the egg liquid, which is being attached with then for the eggshell membranes, and the calcium. And it can, this market can have a potential to go even up to 1,000 crore rupees. Then other one is the hatchery industry waste. And presently this hatchery industry waste is being used as a landfill or maybe the partial composting, and then it is being sold out. However, the mixed meal for the feed industry, we can develop it, and composting can be better regularized, and we can earn a lot out of that one. Third one, which we are being talking about, the meat industry byproducts. So in the meat industry byproduct, if we see that we are being producing around 8.2 million tons of the meat, and the major is the skin and the hide, which is the best utilized till date. We can say that we are being producing around 1,36,000 crore rupees out of the skin and hide leather industry, and we are being exporting the $5.5 billion. Whereas the bones, other byproducts, they are not being utilized. So almost 8.5 million tons of the meat industry byproducts are not being utilized, or very, very poorly being utilized. In the meat industry byproduct, there is we are being getting around 20% of the total meat, around 1.96 million ton from the bovine meat. That's a buffalo. And buffalo industry, buffalo slaughtering industry is being more organized. And they are being utilizing all the byproduct, but only to the high volume, low price byproducts. Amongst them is the most common is the meat cum bone meal, or maximum the lard or tallow. Rest of the byproduct are not being utilized. Whereas in case of the poultry industry, so total we have a population of around 900 million poultry population is being there, and last year 2018-19 there was around 1,250 million birds were being slaughtered in a year. And you can imagine how much byproduct has been produced, and out of this, it's only the 10% is the maximum amount which is being utilized one or other way. Rest it is being thrown out. Or naturally, it is going and having a lot of impact on the environment, and there is also the chances of the spread of the diseases are being there. So there is a lot of concern regarding the meat industry byproduct is being there, and there is a huge biomass is being available. So the industry can work on it. And on this regard, Dr. Vikas Pathak as well as the Harman Madhon, he will put more light how the industry can utilize all these byproducts. Then I just want to put up one concern. There's one of the biggest concern nowadays is there. That's the carcass disposal. As you know, that around 536 million livestock population is being there in India, apart from the poultry. And out of this, 203 million animals are being there, which are being reared not for a meat purpose. That include cattle, camel, yak, mithun, equines, etc. So because of the natural death, around 8 to 10% of the animal die because of their natural death annually. So there is a 18 million carcasses are being available. If we go to the meat animals, as the meat animals are being mostly disposed of through the slaughterhouses, we have a death rate is around 2 to 3% in case of the meat animals. So approximately 25 million carcasses are being available for the disposed. 25 million carcasses means 25 million skin and the hides. 20, if you go for the byproduct, you can imagine that's around 8 million tons of the byproduct are being produced from these 25 million carcasses. So how we can utilize it? That's the one of the $1 million question. So for small, it can be one of the biggest source for the economy development of India as well as the employment generation. We can establish small rendering units with a capacity of 50 animals per day. In this case, the investment is being around 2 crore rupees for a machinery, transportation, and other expenses are being there, apart from the cost of the land. But the returns are being huge. And we require almost 1,400 such units in the India. And we can give employment to more than 2 lakh people. So such a huge potential is being available in this case. So I just want to put up here that such a huge biomass is with us. So discuss how this huge biomass can be utilized and how the entrepreneurship can come out of it, how the revenue generation can be made out. To discuss all these issues, we have an experts with us, and in the next 1 hour and 40 minutes, we will discuss how we can manage all these biomass, all these resources into a better returns of the fruitful manner. So in this regard, first I want to invite Dr. Vikas Pathak. He's a professor and head from Mathura Veterinary University, and he's also been taking care regarding the Directorate of Student Welfare, and he's a well-known personality in case of the meat sciences. He has an experience of more than 25 years in that. So please welcome Dr. Vikas Pathak. Now I hand over the mic to the Dr. Vikas Pathak. He will share his views regarding the meat industry byproduct, how the best they can be utilized and how the best they can manage those things. Dr. Vikas Pathak, I suppose he is being taking care regarding their presentation. So I just request all the participants, if they have any queries, they can place their queries in the chat box. So in between as well as in the end, we can discuss all those points over there, and we try to reply all the queries. Meat industry has a lot of potentials. So as I told you that the meat industry is a scattered industry in case of the Indian condition, and the slaughter is being carried out any lanes and sub lanes. There is around 3,500 slaughterhouses which are being registered with the different local bodies that include your panchayat, municipal corporations, and others. The slaughter units. So the slaughter units, even then, apart from that, there is 80 buffalo slaughter units are being there, which are being 100% export-oriented units. and the around 25,000 slaughter units are being there, which are being totally unlicensed, and they are being slaughtering the animals starting from the poultry, sheep, goat, and everything. So the huge biomass is being generated by these units. Approximately, there is around 2 million animals are being slaughtered annually in India, and we are being one of the biggest exporter of the buffalo meat are being there. And last year we have earned around 27,000 crore rupees from the export of the buffalo meat. As the buffalo meat, majority of the buffalo meat is being produced through the modern abattoirs. So the byproducts in their cases are being commonly being utilized in the form of the meat come bone meal, that whatever the material is being coming up, that includes your bone or the meat trimmings or the other parts, they just crush it and put it into the rendering unit, and the meat come bone meal along with the lard or the tallow, they are being extracting out. These byproducts are going to the either to the feed industry, animal feed industry, or maybe the soap industry. Other one is that in case poultry industry, we have in a small or the large, approximately 160 poultry processing plants are being there, and these 160 poultry processing plants are being utilizing only 12 million birds they are being slaughtering annually. Rest of the poultry is being slaughtered at in a unorganized sector, where the slaughter rate can be varying from one bird to the 5,000 birds even per day. So in these cases, the collection of the byproduct is the major concern. They cannot, the byproducts, if it is in an organized sector, the utilization of the byproducts can be easier way. So all these byproducts are being thrown out as such, or maybe sold to the fish industry. The fishes are being basically as a feed, or maybe any feed also, if it is being dried up, or if it is being thrown as such, then naturally it is a source of the infection. The dogs, scavengers, they will come over and may spread the diseases, or it can create a lot of pressure on the environment. So we have to do something regarding the utilization of the poultry industry byproduct, which is one of the biggest source. Dr. Vikas Pathak has some technical issue. He will be joining us very soon. So in between, if Dr. Meena is being ready, Meena sir is being present. Dr. Meena?
Yeah, hello sir.
Can you start, because Dr. Pathak has some technical issue with him?
No problem, sir.
So Dr. Meena, GS Meena, he is basically been working on the dairy industry byproduct, and especially he's in charge of the byproduct unit in case of the National Dairy Research Institute. So he is taking care regarding the whey and the membrane technology. So the mic is handed over to Dr. Meena. He will tell you about the how the dairy industry byproduct can be best utilized. Dr. Meena, please.
Yes, sir.
You can share your view.
Is it visible to you?
Yes, sir. Please keep it full screen. Yeah, now it's okay, sir.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manish. And okay, so very good morning to everybody. And this is Dr. G.S. Meena from National Dairy Research Institute. And now I'm going to talk about processing and like utilization and scope of some dairy byproducts. So this will be my presentation outline. Like I will be touching some introduction, then some problems related to dairy byproducts, and followed by preparation of different dairy byproducts, and then conclusion. So if you talk about milk, this is not new to us, because from our childhood or at the time when we are taking birth, this is the first thing which we are going to consume. And this is milk and dairy products, range of their consumption is enhancing as we are growing up, and we are even consuming these dairy products till the later age of our life. Okay, so you all are aware about the different dairy products which we are consuming. You can see on here, like we are consuming ghee, paneer, chena, butter, all these products. Okay, but the concern, like, we are always focused on the consumption on main products. However, we are not knowing that what is happening with respect to the process when we are making these byproducts. Okay, so suppose we are making paneer. So during paneer manufacturing, the main product is paneer, but there is something, some other products are also obtained in the side. What we are doing with that? So might be a lot of people are not knowing it. So if we technically, or in a very simple definition, we want to define what is dairy byproduct is, so it goes by this particular definition, like a product that has a commercial value and obtained during the production of a main product. So this is the definition of byproducts. Like, whenever we are making a main product, suppose we are making ghee. So if you are going by traditional method, you all know buttermilk, or in very simple language, chach. Okay, that is obtained. So during manufacturing of ghee, we are getting buttermilk. So buttermilk is a byproduct. However, this criteria is not very strict. It depends on the intended use, like what we are going to, or what we are aiming to manufacture. Suppose we are aiming for the manufacture of cheese, then we will result with the whey that considered as a byproduct. However, if we want to produce high protein powders, particularly whey protein powders, in that case, even cheese, chana, paneer, they can act as a byproduct. So this is interchangeable. It depends on the end use of the, like, the person who is interested to produce a particular product, like he's aiming for cheese or he's aiming for whey powder. So based on that, it can be changed. If we see Indian dairy consumption by product, so here you can see, like, we are still consuming a lot of milk in terms of fluid milk, and we are also very fond of in consumption of ghee, butter. So here you can see, like, these values are in terms of these shares are in value terms. 7% butter, 7% curd, 7% milk is cocoa, then non-fat dry milk, and ghee is around high 28%. It could be ghee, clarified butter. If we go by some other, like, how much milk a person is getting in India, so here you can see that what is the per capita milk availability. So for when you are going from top to bottom, what is happening, that this yield per capita milk availability is enhancing. Okay, so if you see the data of your 2016-17, a person is getting around 355 gram milk per day. However, if you see the current year data, then this yield has increased from 355 to 394 gram per day. Now, if we see in terms of value addition, so value addition, like, if you are selling milk directly, it could be around 40 or 50 rupees per kg, but return to that milk is quite low. So with the addition of some processing, we can enhance the value of milk by converting into a different product. So if you go by this National Action Plan for Dairy Development Vision 2020, if you see, like, 60% milk was consumed as liquid milk, while the value addition is only 23%. However, if you see in year 2019-20, the data says that the value addition has increased up to 30%, and the liquid milk sale is the liquid milk consumption is reduced with 60%, and others is around 10%. So there is a decrease in them. That's why there is an increase in the value addition. Now, this slide shows state-wise sale of value-added products. So here to the left of this screen, these are the state and union territories, and on the top, these are the different products. You can say, like, as per this Vision 2020, 22, these are the high value-added product, like ice cream, processed cheese, unprocessed cheese, paneer, gulab jamun, table butter, flavored milk, srikhand, dairy whitener, lassi, and long shelf life milk, like UST milk. Okay, so here you can see the sale of a particular product like ice cream with respect to each state which they have sold so far, and at the last, the total sale has been given for each product. But the questions comes, like, in India we are saying, or the government is saying, that these are the value-added product, but does it? They are really high value-added product, like they are very costly product. Some of you might be consuming whey powders, particularly athletes and those who are concerned with their fitness. They might be knowing that what is the cost of 1 kg whey powder, which they are getting high protein powder like WPC, they are getting from market. None of the product out of them is more than 1,000 rupees per kg, but they are knowing that the cost of such powders may be more than 4,000 kg, 5,000 per kg. So that is the real value addition. Now, if we have a look on the byproduct process flow, that how does this industry works and what is happening when we are dealing with the processing of different dairy byproducts. So here you can see, suppose we are starting with the raw milk, we are going for its separation, and after separation we are getting cream, and this cream is churned to get butter, and this butter then is heat treated or heat clarified, and then we will get ghee. So ghee will be byproduct, and ghee residue, this is the solid mass of SNA, which is brown in color, and it is left over basically. So that will get as a byproduct. And during churning, we will get buttermilk as a byproduct. So this buttermilk can be processed as such as we are dealing with the skim processing. It can be evaporated and dried, and we will get buttermilk powder. So that is the most common use of buttermilk so far in India. Now on the other side, after separation, we are getting skim milk. So it can be evaporated and dried. Like we are enhancing TS from around 10% to 48 to 50%, and then we are subjecting it to drying, and we are getting skim milk powder. Believe me, this production of skim milk powder and butter, these are the balancing wheel of our dairy industry, because whenever we are having a huge amount of milk production, dairy industry are simply separating this milk and converting it to skim milk powder and white butter. And when there is a lack of milk production, particularly in summer season, they are reconstituting and they are again making milk and supplying to different consumers. And if we are going for pasteurization of this skim milk, we are getting pasteurized skim milk. Even we can use raw milk, raw skim milk for the manufacturing of different products, like, or after standardization, we can make paneer, chena, and cheese. And these are the coagulated products. They will result in whey. And if we are going for the precipitation, we can get casein, caseinate. That can be casein can be produced from skim milk, or casein can be used, and co-precipitate. So all these 6 products are resulting in the formation or production of whey. So whey is the most vital byproduct of the dairy industry. So what to do with this whey? They are processing, like we can go with the evaporation of this whey, we can condense it, we can crystallize lactose, and we can produce whey powders after this. But this whey powder is not of high value because it contains a lot of minerals. And if we can also produce whey beverage and drinks using this whey, we can go for the demineralization using ion exchange, electrodialysis, and nanofiltration, and we can produce demineralized whey. If we are taking help of membrane processing, then we can go for ultrafiltration, and this will concentrate the protein present in whey, and we can result with the high protein product like the WPC 35 and 70. The permeate can be taken, concentrated, and crystallized, and we can produce lactose. Even it can be used for the beverage and drink fermentation, fermented drink production. We can also go for the reverse osmosis, is a dewatering process, and after thermal condensing, we can result with the production of whey powders. Or if we are going for this crystallization and of lactose, we can produce lactose out of this. So this is the total flow chart, that how dairy industry is converting its different byproducts into valuable products or value-added products. Okay. So what is the significance of byproduct utilization? The most important thing, like it improves plant economy. Because it is the leftover portion. If you are throwing it, it is not advisable. There are certain reasons behind that. So this is a key thing, like if we are reducing the dairy waste, then our profit to the dairy organization is enhancing. And it makes valuable nutrient available for human consumption, because these byproducts are containing quality ingredients in terms of like proteins, lactose, even fat. And it reduces environmental pollution. We cannot, like the guidelines are saying that you cannot throw it to the environment, and if you are throwing it to ETP, that is effluent treatment plant, we have to process it. So we have to put energy, cost, labor, everything, and it is reducing the plant economy. That's why its utilization is most important thing. So each drop of milk must be judiciously processed into edible form. The obvious reason, that unique nutritive value, and conversion into non-food items is not permissible or advisable. The reason that India is a huge country and we are facing problems of malnutrition, because of that we are not supposed to convert edible product into non-edible product. Now economic disposal of these products is key for profiting dairy. Now processing of byproduct needs to be economically feasible if one is to invest capital and resources for the utilization. It may happen like or India, it is the problem, like we can produce a byproduct, but its cost may be higher than the byproduct itself. So we have to go for economical feasibility first of all. So in India, most of the problems associated with byproducts include a low per capita availability of the milk, because we are not very high in milk, although we are like top in milk production from at least 10-15 years. But if you see a person is only getting limited amount of milk, higher proportion of buffalo milk. Now, a question will come that why buffalo milk is creating problem. So if you look at the technologies which are available in dairy industry, they have been developed for cow milk in Western countries. Now, the chemical composition is different for cow and buffalo milk. So the technology which has been developed for cow milk, that cannot be applied to the buffalo milk as such, because there is a natural difference in the chemical composition, particularly calcium and casein. So we have to have our own technology, and we are lacking on that poor quality of raw milk and lack of organized manufacture of products. We are, organized sector and unorganized sector. So unorganized sector is still contributing a lot, and they are producing different products otherwise in a scattered amount, a small quantity. So we cannot recover the total byproduct which are formed out of that. Lack of educate technology and R&D, which is in-house. Lack of proper infrastructure, lack of indigenous equipment and plants, because we have to meet our own challenges. Our traditional dairy products and other products are totally different in terms of their manufacturing process. So sometimes the equipment which we are procuring from outside, they cannot solve our purpose, and high cost of new technologies. That is another reason. So economical aspect of the plant is crucial. Manufacturing cost of a byproduct may be higher than the cost of that particular byproduct. So we have to take into consideration whenever we are dealing with the processing of this byproducts. So current developments are still enhancing it. Now, dairy product processing, if we see this data of NITI Aayog, so it is saying that up to 2032 to 33, supply is enhancing and demand is also enhancing, but there is a gap in supply and demand. So we are having scope for the byproduct manufacturing. This is a quite interesting slide. You can see here the different byproducts like skim milk, sweet cream buttermilk, sweet whey, medium acid whey, and ghee residue. Here you can see the TS content and their protein content of each of them, like 9.3, 10.7, 9.88. So suppose out of these byproduct, if we want to produce 1 kg dry solids, how much amount or quantity of that particular byproduct is required? So suppose I want to produce 1 kg dry powder. So for cow skim milk, I need 10.75 kg. Buffalo milk 9.34, sweet cream buttermilk 10.12 kg. For sweet whey, cheddar or acid casein 14.92. Rennet, chena and coke sucrate, this is 14, 15, 16 kgs. For ghee residue, it is 1.2. But if I want to produce 1 kg protein out of that, believe me, this is going to be very interesting. Like 30 kg skim milk is required. If we are dealing with whey powder, it is 11 kg, 100 kg, 100 kg, and if we are having coke precipitate, then it is 333 kg. This coke precipitate whey need to be processed to recover 1 kg protein, because their protein content is 0.3, 0.4, and 1%. That is the reason. Now, suppose if we are able to manufacture buttermilk powder, do we find the usage in dairy industry? And if you are producing this whey powders, their S content is quite high, their quality is low, their price is low. So it's a problem because the processing cost is much higher. And even we don't have processing technology for the production of ghee residue powder. Still, this is not existing. So here you can see these are the different players who are producing different commercial byproducts in terms of like skim milk, buttermilk, whey powder, this is demineralized whey powder, WPC, lactose, and other grades. So the interesting thing, like FAO says that if we are rearing 9 cows in India, the cost of labor is equivalent to 35 cows in USA. What does it mean? It means like processing our milk production cost is quite high. So another question, can we add value to dairy products? Okay, if yes, we can do. Does it economically feasible? Okay, if yes, then can it compete with the international market in terms of quality and cost? That is also important thing. If you are not able to do this, our byproduct plant is not going to succeed. These are the major challenges. Now, here you can see manufacturing of casein. So casein is classified into these 4 categories: acid, rennet, edible, and industrial. And edible casein is different from industrial casein because it is used for edible purpose. Under sanitary condition, it is produced, and it is produced with using food grade acids. Sufficient heat treatment has to be given to make it safe for human consumption. These are FSSAI standards for casein. And this is an automatic plant for casein manufacturing, where we are taking skim milk and we are subjecting to heat. Then we are going for acid dosing, holding it, washing it, and then decanter to remove the liquid and solid portion. And then we are finally going for its drying and separation, and then we can produce. So yeah, this is the advantage. Like if you are having technology, so automatic plant of 14,000 liter per hour can be operated by a single person. That is the advantage of technology, because it is reducing the labor cost, and that's why a single person can handle that much plant. Now another is the manufacturing of caseinate. So caseinate is a soluble form of casein, and its manufacturing is start with skim milk or casein curd. So here we have to take 25% to 30% TS, and we need to maintain its pH, and then we can spray dry, but the TS cannot go more than 20 to 22%. It means we have to remove 80% water, which is going to be like energy extensive process. And these are the equipments, like we are taking acid, this casein curd, mincing it, and applying NaOH and maintaining pH, and then it can go to spreader and we can get sodium caseinate, which has very excellent functional properties. Now, going to talk about utilization of Whey. Whey is the largest byproduct, and Sir has already told that how much Whey we are producing. These are certain limiting factors in the Whey processing. Scattered production, different source of origin, like we have China, we are having acid Whey, sweet Whey, casein Whey, cheese Whey. So different source of origin, low TS, only 6%, large mass, huge amount, high mineral content. Crude product has lower market price, like 70 or 90 rupees per kg. High value added product needs huge investment, lack of in-house technologies, and lack of adequate processing plants. Even our collection is not proper. That's why it is being wasted. So we can take help of membrane processing, because membrane processing is answer to a lot of things, and we are very far behind than the developed nations. Like in developed nations, people are converting Whey into value-added product from 1970, and India is still, we are not adapting membrane processing, and we are not able to process Whey into the high value-added products. So that is the particular thing. Like membrane process is a particular set of equipments which is required to process a particular product. And here you can see, this is the classical diagram, which is showing like microfiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis, applied pressure and pore size, and which are the components which are retained by these processes. Like microfiltration can remove everything in terms of like bacteria and fat, while ultrafiltration is used removing proteins. NF is known as demineralization process, and RO is dewatering process, which is the most economical process up to its working limit, like 20 and 28%. And these are the different modules of these membranes. If we see their application in milk processing, so in a skim milk, we can go for concentration of skim milk by UF and MF and DF. Diafiltration is a like purification process, and we can produce milk protein concentrate powder. So this powder contain both casein and whey proteins. If we are going by fractionation by MF, we can even fractionate casein and whey protein out of milk. So we can use in cheese manufacturing, we can use into WP like whey protein solution, which can be concentrated, and we can go for ion exchange chromatography, and we can get high valued product in terms of like lactoferrin, alpha lactoglobulin, and beta lactoglobulin. We can go for standardization of protein, and we can get high protein milk. We can go RO, that can be produced high like concentrated milk at lower cost, and it will be enhancing our this process efficiency, and it can be used in ice cream manufacturing. Similarly, here you can see the utilization of membrane processing in whey pre-treatment. We can go by demineralization, and we will get partially demineralized whey powders. We can go for concentration of UF. We will be getting whey protein powder that could be ranging protein content from 35 to 70 or even higher. And if you are having whey permeate, we can go for its demineralization, like removing salts. Higher salt content is not advisable to consume because it is creating problems. So we can get partially demineralized whey protein powder. Concentration by RO, crystallization, and if we are going for crystallization of lactose, we can get lactose. So lactose has a lot of applications in pharmaceutical industry. Heat treatment, fractionation by MF, we can get phospholipids, defatted whey. Concentration, we can get defatted WPC. Again, here we can go for fractionation by MF, we can get pure beta lactoglobulin and pure alpha lactoglobulin. These are the protein, whey protein fractions basically. Now, if you want to produce like condensed and sweetened whey, so this is the flow diagram. We can take whey, we can go for its removal of fat, pasteurization, concentration by RO, and if we are adding sugar, then we are going to get sweetened condensed whey. So RO can be used because it can enhance the TS into 21% range and 17%, and if we are going for multiple effective operation, it can be enhanced by 60 to 65% TS. This is the way by which we can produce different whey powders. So ordinary, pre-crystallized, non-caking, and non-caking. Basically, these are the difference in the processing section. The first is evaporation up to 42 to 50, 45, 40% TS. Then we are going for higher concentration. Then we are inducing pre-crystallization for lactose, so that the powder which we are going to manufacture is non-caking. It means it's not absorbing moisture. So if we are using higher number of drying stages, then the caking problem can be solved. Now, if we see about the whey protein market in India, it is growing with the range of around 20% CAGR, and it is growing in all the regions of India. So, what is the answer to that? Answer is to make our own whey protein powder, and for that we need to have ultrafiltration plant and diafiltration followed by spray drying. So spray drying, most of the dairies are using, but people are not using ultrafiltration. So here we are taking whey, then we are going for its pasteurization. We are going for ultrafiltration where we are retaining or concentrating the protein. A diafiltration is further enhancing the protein content. Here you can see like 10 to 17% TS, and this protein content is 30 to 50. Diafiltration is enhancing to 70 to 83%. Then it can be evaporated, mixed, and we can get spray dried powder, WPC powder, which is ranging in protein content from 34 to even to 80% of. If we are going for high purification, we can further enhance its protein content, but huge amount of whey is required for this. Now, bitter truth, these all are the things like we are good in milk production, we are top in milk production, but India's whey protein consumption is growing, and the overall market size for this milk-based protein is established around 10,000 crores, but every month around 15,000, 1,500 tons, or like you can say 18,000 tons of whey powder is imported in our country. Okay, so Indian dairy plants are forced to sell whey powders at cheaper price, sometimes even below their cost, because the imports are cheaper. Like there are other countries where milk production cost is lower and their processing is much efficient, so their production cost is low. So they want to dump all the product here at a lower cost. But if we are procuring it, our dairy industry and our farmers will be in the trouble. Okay, here you can see the product-wise import share of the dairy sector. So milk, cream, concentrated milk, buttermilk, and if you see this whey and other natural milk concentrate like lactose, so there is a huge increase in the CAGR 33, 10, 21, 18, and 13.12. So basically, we are top in milk production, but still we are importing a lot of products. Now coming to ghee residue, you all know that when we are making ghee, then we are left over with some of the SNF portion. So if we take into consideration that how much we are getting, and if we recover the total protein out of that, so the total protein, I'm only talking about protein, it will be the 4,736 and 10 to the power 4 kgs. And believe me, if we could recover the protein which is present here, we can meet annual protein demand of around 22 lakh healthy persons. Fat content is much higher into it. So energy of ghee residue is quite high. So one side we are facing malnutrition problem, other side we are not utilizing it. So it's not a justice. If you see in the literature, these are the intended uses of this ghee residue, like some of the studies has conducted who has recovered whey proteins out of this recovered proteins from ghee residue. Some of them are saying that they manufactured burfi, chocolate, cakes, biscuit, chocolate, and some of them are adding into this pinny. As Mahesh told that it is not basically utilized, it is going to soap industry and some. And I also in the firm belief that practical uses of ghee residue is only subjected to like the dairy plants are providing it to cattle feed manufacturing plant. Can you believe it is rich in nutrients, still it is used as a boiler fuel. They are feeding to boiler so that it has very high calorific value. So it is providing energy, like and it is also being sold to fish and chicken feeds. And this is another product which is known as milk protein concentrate powder. And the uniqueness of this about like it is available in the 42 to 89% protein content. And it has unique casein to whey protein ratio, like its milk, no harsh treatment is applied. And it is a better way to valorize skim milk. And this is the flow diagram, like we need to have cow or buffalo milk, and then we can go for ultrafiltration, adjusting pH and temperature and the protein content, then we are going for drying. Now technologies are available for the production of MPC from cow and buffalo milk. If you see its market potential, in USA around 800 products were launched and containing MPC as a key ingredient. And in India, demand of milk, high protein milk products is enhancing. And that will be around 16% of the global. Here you can see like the different categories of the products in which MPC has been used. And here also you can see application of MPC in most of the products like desserts, emulsion like soup, sauces, geriatric nutrition, ice cream, follow-up formula, low lactose products, medical and clinical nutrition processes. It can be used to replace SMP, sports and nutritional beverages, conditional protein content, yogurt, and weight management. So it's a quite vital product which can be used in number of applications. Now, coming to the conclusion, efficient utilization of dairy byproducts is key to the profitable dairy, and economic feasibility analysis driven by sound technical knowledge is necessary. And focus must be on the conversion and valorization of the conventional byproducts into the newer tech ingredients. Membrane processing is a major role, and we have to adapt it, increase its use so that we can cope up with the advancement in the technology and we can produce high quality ingredients. And in India, valorization of buttermilk, ghee residue, and skim milk is still awaiting for their untapped total or full potential. Like still people are just converting skim milk into skim milk powder and they are happy. But if you see the story of skim milk powder, people are or industries are not getting even price which is involved in production. Like 230 kg is the production cost, and last year the export price is 150 rupees per kg. Now tell how they is going to survive. So I will finish my presentation with this quote of this RSOD, who is MD of GCMMF. He is saying that there are demands from different countries to open up the Indian dairy market so that they can export their surplus milk products to nil or lower import duties. And this will be detrimental to the Indian dairy industry and to the livelihood and sustenance of our 10 crore milk producers. So that is the situation. We have to deal with it. We have to prevent at least this imports of these dairy products, and we have to valorize our milk products, like particularly byproducts, so that we can sustain, we can grow, and we can survive in this business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meena. It's a really wonderful talk, and you have elaborated each and every aspect of the byproduct industry. There are the queries are being coming up. So the few points I just want to clarify that.
Yes,
Dr. Meena?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That we can discuss 2 points, that how this can go for a cottage industry, some employment generation in that case. In case of your whey or maybe the ghee residues or the other byproducts.
Sir, I think like if we are going to use this ghee residue as such without further processing, in terms of like, as I told that one plant is making penny, so they are using whole ghee residue, and all the goodness of this ghee residue is going into penny. So in that case, it can be utilized. Like in byproduct, the major problem, if you want to go for a commercial scale, you have to have a certain quantity with you. Then only it will be economically viable, and you should have a technical knowledge as well. Otherwise, a lot of dairy plants has been got shut down. So that is the way. With the way the producers who are producing 50 kg and like that, they can go for drinks like different drinks, flavored drinks or jaljeera. That type of drinks they can manufacture, beverage they can manufacture, and I think that will be the best suited way to enhance their profitability and employment. Yeah. Otherwise, we must have huge quantity, or we must collect all the whey which is being generated by these small producers. Then we can collect at a particular point, and then we can process it.
Wonderful. So I just want to put up over here that one of our industry, they are being utilizing into the whey into the bakery part. One of my friends, he is basically being a bread manufacturer. Yeah. Along with that, he has a dairy plant also. So whatever the whey he's been getting from the dairy plant, he is being using into the bread manufacturing process. And
even ghee residue can be used very well in bakery industry.
Yeah. So there is what they have found that there is an increase in the protein percentage of the bread by around 12%. Yep. So in general, bread has an around 8 to 9% of the protein. So its end product with the whey is having around 9.5 to 10% of the protein. So it becomes a USP of that bread. And this is being sold as in a hot cake, and he got a very encouraging marketing potential out of that one. So
even sir, if we are adding ghee residue, then we can replace bakery fat. That is a bad fat, you can say, in terms of if we compare milk fat and bakery fat. So we can replace bakery fat with the fat which is present in ghee residue, which is not totally recoverable, or we cannot extract it fully. We don't have any methodology. And at the same time, it is also enhancing protein quantity, lactose content. So overall nutrition is enhancing, and it will be a cheap source as well.
Yeah, very wonderful, wonderful talk. So we will come to you again back in the regarding the different queries. First, Dr. Vikas Pathak is again with us. So I think now he has removed all the hitches of technical hitches and everything. So Dr. Pathak, welcome.
Thank you.
Sir.
Okay. So as I've already mentioned you, Dr. Vikas Pathak is the head of the department in Veterinary University, Mathura, and he is being a very popular among the students. So that's why he is being given the charge of Directorate of Student Welfare also. So he is being working in the meat sector around from last 25 years. So he has a lot of potential in that. He can tell you the true vision of the meat industry, especially with respect to the byproduct part in the next 20 years. So welcome, Dr. Pathak. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Manish. So I'll start with my presentation. Is it coming?
Dr. Pathak, please make it in a full screen.
I'm doing it. Now is it coming?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a very good morning to all of you. Now, I'll be giving some information about the different utilization of the animal byproducts, or we can say byproducts from the meat industry. So, to begin with, that you know, the meat production in our country has been on increase, and it has been standing with a steady growth rate, and subsequently the livestock sector has been contributing towards more in the agriculture sector. So all these things basically, or all these conditions lead to generation of the large byproducts, and it is very important that the efficient utilization of the byproduct has to be made, because if we are not doing that, there will be not only the problem of the environmental pollution in different kinds, but obviously the cost of disposal of these byproducts has to be also incurred by the industry, and ultimately the cost has to be borne by the हाँ बोलो वाघ हेलो हाँ बोलो ठीक है again, you know, you can see from this slide that the dressing percentage is basically about 50 to 60% apart from in the some of the animals. So anything which is getting out of that dressed carcass, or anything remaining out of the dressed carcass, form the you can say slaughterhouse byproducts, and the amount of these byproducts is equally as far as the dressed carcass weight. Now, again, this slide you can see that meat is only constituting about 28%, and there are lot of important, you can say, byproducts which we get from the meat industry, and more or less they are going waste, because in our country the efficient utilization of the byproducts has not been achieved till date. Now, this is some of the things that if we see that in case of, you can say, bovine slaughterhouse, it is about 275 kg ton per ton of live weight killed, which is equal to the 27.5% of the animal weight. So this is the solid waste generation out of that. And in case of goat and sheep slaughterhouse, we are also getting, you can say, 2.3 kg per head, which is equivalent to the 4% of the animal weight. And if we take it on the average, we can see that 11% of the gross income of the beef and 7.5 income of the pork, it is coming from the byproducts only. The economics of the organized abattoir again can be enhanced by utilization of the byproducts, and still we are far behind. And again, one thing I like to add in this you can say, presentation, that livestock industry is not as lucky as the agriculture industry. When you take any livestock industry, Dr. Meena has also told, if we are not going to utilize the byproducts, we won't be able to recover the cost of the commodity even. So this is the feed market and this is the gelatin. The different markets are there, and this is, you can say, estimated more than 10 million metric tons of edible and inedible byproducts are being produced, and which can generate, or you can say, revenue of about 1,000 crore per annum, and from the slaughterhouse byproducts, and about rupees 600 crore from the dead and fallen animals. And this was the long back data. Now the production has increased significantly, and in the advanced countries, we can get at least 10 to 15% of the live weight from the we can get the value of the 10 to 15% of the live weight by the animal breed. Now, as I told you, cost of animal is higher than the selling price of the carcass. You can see from this slide. And if we are not going to use the byproducts, the slaughterer cannot make profit. The slaughterer cannot make profit. So we have to, this is very essential that we have to use these byproducts to make the industry economically viable or sustainable even. Now, as I told you, what are the byproducts? Byproducts, we can define it as that anything which is not form of the dressed carcass, and we can get it like dressing percentage, 100 minus dressing percentage, whatever is there, is the animal byproducts. So this is the chart which is showing the different kind of the byproduct that animal, when the dressed carcass is there, non-carcass part is there, which is forming the byproducts, and different kind of byproducts are being shown here. Now, if we go for the classification, broad classification of the byproducts include that there are two kinds of the you can say edible and inedible. Edible byproducts, if we say that what we can consume, and edible inedible, which what we cannot consume. So biological, this is demarcation is very different, because this depends upon the social taboos, religion, and places again and again. Now another classification comes on primary and secondary byproduct. That primary includes the byproduct as such, and whatever product we get out of that is secondary byproduct. Then there is some red and white offals, because fat, intestines, they are categorized into the white offal, and spleen, liver, heart, they are categorized into. This is European kind of classification. Again, we can also classify on the basis of the different uses also. They like pharmaceutical byproducts, like glandular byproducts, or we can say medicinal byproducts. Now first we come on edible byproducts. So these edible byproducts, they are more or less, you can say, consumed in our country also, includes liver, heart, brain, lungs, and many pancreas, thymus, testicles. And this yield of edible byproducts is basically around, in cattle it is 12%, and sheep and hog it is 14%. So these are also known as variety meat, or we can also say it's fancy meat. And as I told you earlier, that edible and inedible, there is, you can say, very slight demarcation and depend upon the very factor. So a lot of the inedible byproducts, they can also be converted into edible byproducts by use of the different technological innovations. Sorry. Now, as far as the nutrition, we all know that we are consuming heart, we are consuming gizzard, people are consuming testicles, and these variety meats sometimes they are giving more. You can say they are giving fact that the more prices as compared to the lean meat also, and the more or less the composition is simple, similar with the lean meat, except that these byproducts, they contain high amount of the connective tissue and carbohydrates, so they are more liable to spoilage, and we have to handle them very carefully. Then some of the byproducts, especially liver and kidney, they are rich in many B vitamins like riboflavin, B6, B12, uh, and the content is 5 to 6 times higher than the lean meat also. They are rich source of polyunsaturated fatty acids, although high cholesterol content is there. Because of this high cholesterol content, the consumption the quantity of the consumption has to be taken into the limited quantity, and the protein level is comparable, but however, the composition of the amino acids is different. Now, another, when we talk of edible byproducts, the casings also we can categorize into the, there are a lot of, you can say, manufacturers in our country which are making casings, and casings is one important byproduct which is being exported also from our country. So you know that casing is made from the submucosal layer of the intestine after different processing conditions, and the country has exported in the last year around 14,882.83 metric tons of the animal casing, which has generated the revenue of more than 480.66 crores. And the major export destinations included Vietnam, Myanmar, South Africa, Portugal, Malaysia. This is again the diagram which is showing, because in casing we use whole of the alimentary tract. Alimentary tract is used, or whole of the, so the different parts of the alimentary tract from different type of the casing, and these all are marketed depending upon the different product of sausage. Now we come on the inedible byproduct. Now, as far as inedible byproduct, the use has been from the ancient time, include wool, hair, fiber, skin, bones, horns, hooves, and as I told you that some of these can be used for the edible purposes also. Now, they have been used for housing, clothing. Now, important, as Dr. Manish also told, that hide and skin, they are very important byproducts. And in the organized slaughterhouses, we see that not only in organized slaughterhouses, unorganized slaughterhouses also, there is a great care in, you can say, flaying or removal of the skin of the animals, because they are very easily procured by the industries, or you can say different tendering industries, through some contractuals or contractors. So the hides constitute about the 7 to 11% of the live weight of the animal, and they account for around 10 to 15% of the total realization from the slaughtered animal. And this thing can be increased very easily when it is converted into leather. The value is increased further 5 to 6 times. And the leather industry in our country is very popular, and it accounts for around 13% of the world's leather production and handling about 6 billion foot of square feet of skin. Now, during the last year, the export of the leathers touched around 5.5 billion. And among the different leather, basically footwear export is the highest. India is the second, you can say, producer as well as exporter of the footwears. The leather garment industry, it also contributes around 9%. Leather good and saddlery also contributes around 23.79, 2.7% respectively. And finished leather also stands at 15.2%. So the Kanpur, Saharanpur, then some parts in Haryana, then Calcutta, then Kochi, Chennai. These are the basically map showing the different areas where leather production is very common, even Agra. Now, again, the another important part is, you can say, bones. The bones, basically, they are also constituting around 20 to 25% of the live weight. And again, marrow inside it contributes again 4 to 6% of the carcass weight. So this bone utilization has also been increasing very, is gaining the popularity also, because earlier it has been used for meals, then now it is being used for making of the, you can say, bone char, bone china, then bone jewelry is being produced, and then we can say that bone morphogenic proteins which have got low antigenicity, they are also used in facial, dental, and aesthetic surgery. and some it is also used in industry. But this bone and as well as the skin part of the collagen, you can say collagen part of the skin, these are also used, and horn pith of the horns, they are also used in the production of the gelatin. And we know that gelatin industry is gaining again very popularity, but it has been, and the scope is such that the industry is requiring more bones. Even we are not able to, you can say, provide the bones. And this the problem is that not that the bones production is less, but again, as a collection of the bones and reaching to the proper corner, it is very important, which is being lagged. So this industry can be benefited, and here is that we can provide from the different, because pig skins they are used for, when then bovine hides they are used for bones, they are used because ossen from the bones. Then around 10 you can say industries are there. Mostly they were limited to first Kerala, but now it has been expanding to different parts of the country, Gujarat, then Punjab also. So then comes medical and pharmaceutical applications. There are several, you can say, uh, secretions or several glands which are can be converted into some different kind of, well, you can say, products which can be used in medicine or which have used some medicinal value. But the collection is very important, and again, that most of these components can be made, you can say, synthetically also. So slowly and slowly, they are not, you can say, gaining very popularity, so losing the popularity because of the biotechnology interventions. We can go for very easily. Then energy generation, again the biodiesel formation is very on the, is explored uh, our country, and it has been point of the concern, and we have to, we are being focused to produce biodegradable diesel, because it results in less emission of the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. And again, the economics will increase because the low cost animal fat byproducts, they can be used as raw material in this. So again, it is not aminomethyl ester fuel is there. We use fats, methanol, NaOH, again catalytic mixture heated, and we get biodiesel as well as glycerin. Now again, this is the industry again which is a very good scope, because rendering is, you can say, technology which does not need much of the infrastructure, and the amount required for, you can say, installation of the different rendering system is not very high. And there is, you can say, even no proper, you can say, segregation of the material is required, and we can get different kind of meals and even fats, from even proteins, from these kind of rendering systems. So basically there are three kind of rendering system: dry rendering, wet rendering, low temperature rendering. So wet rendering is comparatively very cheap. It's just like a autoclave, but the quantity, or sorry, quality of the low temperature rendering is best. So this is nothing what we do. We have to give the heat to the system under pressure. The proteins, they broke down and they release the fat. And after releasing the fat, the water and protein, they are again segregated, or the water can be dried and they can be built into the different compounds. So these materials, they have very good advantage, and they come into the system again and again, because we, much of these meals, they can be provided as feed supplements into the different kind of, you can say, meat animals also. And again, they come into the our system when they are slaughtered. Again, the byproducts, they can be used in the rendering, and they can be. Now this is the application: feed and pet application. Animal byproducts constitute good source of nutrition like essential amino acid, fatty acids, vitamins, and we can produce blood meals, meat meal, bone meal, which is meat meal and bone meal. It is very good source of, you can say, calcium and phosphorus, and it is also used as, you can say, fertilizer, which I'll be coming there. Then again, we can use these rendered meat fibers, also ingredients. They can dog pet foods. They can be used, and they are also alternative to the soybean meal because of the absence of the nutritional factors. Now, as I told you that these meals, they can also be used as fertilizer application. So fertilizer applications, we can get good supplements, especially calcium and phosphorus in the land. And phosphorus, you know, it is very much required for the, you can say, good land. Then again, this is again the food application. So some of the, you can say, meat product waste, we can go for the restricted hydrolysis or degree of hydrolysis by the use of different enzymes, and we can produce different bioactive properties because there have been some bioactive properties from the meat and meat byproducts, which are very useful for the different conditions like hypertension, etc. Now, this poultry byproducts, they also told that this is again, we can go for meal, then utilization of the animal fat we can use. We can also produce hypertensive, anti-hypertensive peptides, then hydrogen byproduct meal, feather meal, then they are also used as shuttlecocks, pillows, quilts. Then again, fish industry byproducts. You know, the fish sector is growing very rapidly, and fish products export emerged as the largest group in the agriculture exports, and in value accounted for around 47,620. So total fish production was about 125.9 lakh tons, and again, there are, you can say, fish meal is being produced from the, there are about 23 fish meal plants in Karnataka, 2 in Kerala, 3 in Gujarat, and 3 in Wagh. Total fish meal production has increased to about more than 153,000 metric tons. Then fish production oil is also, you can say, can be done by the different methods. So if we talk of, you can say, the just from these technologies, that India, there has not been proper utilization of the animal byproducts. We are not able to even use these byproducts to the very rare extent. So there is a huge scope for revenue generation from the use of these byproducts. Then this non-utilization of these byproducts, they create a lot of environmental pollution. And the matter in 1994 was, even the Supreme Court of the India has also intervened regarding these, and these byproduct utilization has to be given very proper treatment. That, as I told you earlier, value addition, it gives to more economic benefits, and
Thank you, Dr. Pathak. I hope again he's having some issues with the internet connection. So it's being really wonderful talk by the Dr. Vikas Pathak. So there is a lot of queries are being coming up. We are being taking up all these queries in the end. And our next speaker, Mr. Harman Madon, he is being ready with his presentation. So he is basically, as I told you, he's in a BE mechanical, and he was being working in the automobile industry for almost 15 years. He worked as a quality assurance manager over there, and he's been taking care of the all the aspects of the quality. And finally, he started his own startup 3 years back, and now his presence is being felt not only in India but even in the other countries. So, Mr. Harman, he is with us. So, Mr. Harman, can you listen me?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Dr. Chatli. I can hear you. Hello, Dr. Chatli, can you hear me?
Harman, you are not audible to us. Kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, I have unmuted. Can you hear me, doctor?
Sorry, Harman. Still, I am not able to listen you.
Hello, Dr. Chatli. Can you hear me now?
हरमन सर, आपका माइक थोड़ा क्लोज कीजिए. आपकी ना आवाज थोड़ी सी कम आ रही है आपकी आवाज, बट कम आ रही है सर.
Can you hear me now?
यस, आ रही है सर अभी थोड़ी. ठीक है.
Little better.
Shall I speak louder? Is this clear now?
Yeah. Just louder, sir, please.
It's fine now. It's fine now.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Chatli, for the introduction, and it was very enlightening listening to the earlier speakers as well, Dr. Shiva Kumar and Dr. Meena. Very good afternoon to everybody who's listening today. So there's a wealth of technical information and there's a wealth of knowledge that has been shared, but trying to build a business is something that requires a completely different approach. And here today, I'd like to share with you what my experiences have been. I will start obviously in a lighter vein, and then towards the end of my presentation, talk about the more serious and critical issues around utilization of waste and entrepreneurship and what the challenges are thereof. So I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make it full screen, sir.
Yes, it's full screen. Right. So it starts, obviously, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to start by loving your idea. And this is very important because until and unless you believe in what you are doing and the value that you can add, it's going to be difficult to impossible to convince other people to invest in your business or to give you a contract. So this is the beginning. You need to believe in what you're doing and you have to love your idea. Secondly, I will say this to anyone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur, you need to jump. I worked for several years in the auto industry. A few years into my career, it was evident to me that for my long-term career satisfaction, I would need to set up my own firm. So I worked towards it. I had to save up some money, create a little bit of a financial cushion. I had a wife and a young daughter at the time that I decided to quit a well-paying regular job to become an entrepreneur. But there is no other way to do it. Thirdly, I will say this, do whatever it takes. When you start a business, there is so much that you need to learn about regulatory compliance, what you require in terms of setting up a company, how you need to manage your taxes, how you have to understand budgets and cash flows. There is so much that you will continue to learn, but at the same point in time, you will need to do everything, right? Especially if you're a mid-senior level professional where you're used to walking into the office and have juniors who prepare your files and casework for you and people who bring you your tea. None of that is going to happen. You're going to have to do everything on your own. You'll also have a lot of bright ideas. You will necessarily have to learn to optimize whatever resources you have available. And these are primarily your time and your money. This is also a very exciting and very rewarding part of being an entrepreneur. So there will be a lot of joy in these bright ideas. You also need to be hopeful. And by this, I mean, you need to keep your, psychological state of mind. You need to be in a very good psychological state of mind. You can do this through prayer. You can do this through meditation. You can do this through playing a sport. Whatever it is that helps you stay focused and stay balanced and stay hopeful, you need to do that. Also remember, you need to get out of your comfort zone, right? We all get comfortable doing the same things in the same way over a number of years. So for myself, I worked for 14 years in the auto industry, as Dr. Chatli shared with you. I was very comfortable doing what I was doing. I was in a very good position in the hierarchy. I had a good salary. But after a certain point in time, remember that that comfort zone is what is going to limit your ability to grow. This is the very tricky part. Friends and family. You will face this as a man. You will face it from your father and your father-in-law to begin with. They will ask you, "Pagal ho gaya hai kya? What do you think you're doing?" You will have friends. There will be people who live next door to you in your neighborhood. There'll be people you went to college with. They'll all be shocked and surprised that you've decided to stop doing what you're doing and instead focus on trying to set up a waste management business. So please remember that people mean well. They have your best interests at heart. Some people will think you are an idiot as well. But you need to be able to, like I said, stay focused. Take everybody's point of view, but ultimately believe in yourself. It's okay to be stumped. Now, this is something that I learned quite early in my entrepreneurial journey, is that sometimes you don't have the answers. You will struggle with things. There is a lot of learning and unlearning and relearning that needs to be done. Please keep this in mind, right? So whatever you've done in your life and in your career up to a point, when you choose to become an entrepreneur, you need to unlearn those things and you need to learn new things. And at times you will be stumped. You will struggle. You will struggle technically. You will struggle financially. But that's okay. It's part of that effort. Think of it as tapasya. आप तपस्या नहीं करोगे तो फिर आपको कुछ सफल नहीं होने वाला. Then celebrate. That's also important. Along the way, you'll begin to see that you will gain support and traction from others around you. You will get a little bit of funding. It could come either in form of a grant. You could get some money from a potential investor. You'll start building your network. You'll start getting recognition for your work. These are small joys. These are small achievements. It's important to take time off to be grateful and to celebrate these achievements. The other challenge obviously is with dead ends. Sometimes it happens, you will be following up for a very long time. In the waste management space, and especially as related to the animal industry, animal husbandry industry, there are a lot of regulations, and then there are a lot of officials that come into the picture at a local level, at a state level. These officials get transferred. They have a change of heart, regulations change. One thing that was for us a huge challenge that I'd like to share is that we had qualified for a significant equity investment from IL and FS, that is Infrastructure Lending and Financial Services. And this was to be to the tune of a few 100 crores. And as you all know, a little over a year ago, ILFS ended up in bankruptcy court. There was a lot of bad lending that happened. And as a consequence of that, we lost that potential investment. And with that, we lost the business. So there will be a lot of disappointments as well. In fact, more often than not, there'll be a lot of work that you will do and there will be no result for all that effort. And that happens. That's the reality of life. Crazy eyes. This is, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you watch cricket. I watch a lot of cricket. And the god of crazy eyes is none other than the captain of the Indian cricket team, who's Virat Kohli. It's okay, you know, it's okay to get angry or emotional sometimes. You need to let it out. There will be people who will call you at the last minute for a meeting. These could be senior officials in the central government, for example. You'll book last minute flight tickets. They'll cost a lot of money. You'll land up over there. You're ready to make a presentation. And you'll realize that some of the officials have not even bothered to turn up. So these things do happen. It's part of the disappointment of the entrepreneurial journey. So it's okay to have crazy eyes. Next, I'd say hang in there. It's a long journey. It requires focus. It requires determination. It requires being able to take the pain. It requires being able to, like I said, be okay with the struggle. So this is that tapasya once again, but you need to hang on, because until and unless you persevere, you will not succeed. Lastly, I say keep dreaming. If you stop dreaming, you will achieve nothing. That is the simple fact. And you can dream in your sleep. You can dream while you're pursuing your hobbies, taking a shower, whatever it is, playing with your children, but keep dreaming. That's the most important thing. That's when the magic happens. So that's about the entrepreneurial journey. And that's something that I hope that will inspire all of you. But now I'm going to share a few more practical aspects of starting and running a business. And this is something that for all the potential entrepreneurs amongst you, I'd like you to keep in mind. Please learn from my challenges, learn from my difficulties and mistakes, so that you can start doing better faster. Take the benefit of this experience. What I'll share with all of you is the three primary things to remember, right? And I've arranged them here in 3 columns, and these are technology, policy, and finance. Now, the speakers before me have shared a lot with you about technology, right? There are so many technologies available in the market, and that's the starting point for any business that you do. Now, if you invent something, right, please patent it. This requires you to invest a little more time and money in terms of finding a good patent lawyer, in terms of being able to prove that your system is a better way of doing something. A patent obviously requires you to demonstrate that your invention is unique or that it's better in some way. Patents are of 2 types. There are process patents and there are design patents. To give you a simple example, everybody knows that membrane separation is a process, right? Either you can develop another form of filtration that does not require a membrane, then that becomes a process innovation, right? Or if you design a better membrane filter, that becomes a design innovation or a product innovation. So that is an example. But please, if you're inventing something, and a lot of you are academics, so you have a lot of chance to experiment in a laboratory, but please remember, patent it. Secondly, if you're going to be buying technology from someone else, now here are the important things to understand, and this is where you'll find technology overlapping with the financial aspects of running a business. You may have to end up paying a royalty for the technology that you're using. Or obviously you need to incur a capital expenditure upfront to buy this technology. Whichever way you choose to do this, the next thing you need to keep in mind is, what is the availability of this hardware in India? A lot of things we do not have or we do not make, right? And there are some components or smaller components or child parts, as I would call them, which are available in very selective markets and at a very, very high cost. I will share with you one practical example, and that is something which is known as a peristaltic pump. Now, whether you're running a membrane filtration unit, whether you're running a screw press, whether you're running some equipment in a rendering plant, whatever you're doing, you will need these diaphragm type peristaltic pumps. And there are a very limited number of manufacturers. This is a very high cost item with limited availability. It has to be imported. Because it has to be imported, then that's the next part that you need to comply with, and that is on policy levels, right? You need to be able to confirm that you can import the said part. Lastly, there's after sales and service. Now here again, one small advantage I had is, after working for several years in the automobile industry, and to clarify to what Dr. Chatli said earlier, I did quality control only towards the latter part of my career. In the beginning, I worked in a press shop, in a body shop that was making car parts. Then I was a design engineer, and then lastly, I was in quality control. So over the natural progression of my career, I learned a lot about how to maintain equipment, and that is experience that is to my benefit today. Sometimes there is no shortcut to actually taking a pana and a screwdriver and working on your equipment yourself. So be aware of this in terms of what the technology risks are. Next, coming to policy, very important once again, apart from policies around setting up a business or importing of parts, the one thing that I have experienced in my career personally has been you need clarity on pollution norms. We have something which is known as the Central Pollution Control Board, and then you have all the various state pollution control boards. Do not for one moment think that the pollution norms are the same across the country. They are not. The norms that are set by the Central Pollution Control Board are essentially indicative. Final decisions in terms of the laws is with the state and the state pollution control boards, and the enforcement of those laws are down to whatever local authority will be giving you your CTE and CTO. What are these? A CTE is a consent to establish, and a CTO is a consent to operate. Just because you get a CTE does not mean that you will get a CTO. The consent to establish means that yes, you can set up a plant that is going to be processing, say, whey or an animal carcass or a biodiesel plant, right? So you can buy or rent the land, you can build your factory, but then you need the CTO or the consent to operate. It has happened to a colleague, to another entrepreneur. It has not happened to me yet, and I shudder to think, but after you do all the capital investment and you set up your plant, then you do not receive the consent to operate, which means that now you have incurred a capital expense. You're beginning to pay interest on the loans that you have taken to set up your factory, but you cannot operate the plant. These are practical real world challenges that happen. Therefore, it's very important to have complete clarity on the policy level before you decide to make any sort of investment. Next, and again, relevant both from a finance and a policy perspective, is land and zoning laws. These are subject to change. However, there are a few broad guidelines that apply countrywide and that are enforced. Typically, you need to ensure that you have no liquid discharge, right? So what this means is that even if you were to have a whey plant, and as one of the eminent speakers said before me, the TS or the total solids of that is low. That means you're going to have a lot of moisture or water that will come out of whatever process that you do. And in such a situation, you need to be at least 500 feet from any water body. That means any stream or river. So you also then perforce need to set up a water treatment plant so that you comply with discharge requirements. These all begin to add up to the capital expenditure that you need to incur. So it's important to be well prepared. The next point is around local sentiments. Local sentiments have also been touched upon by speakers prior to us, prior to me. Here, I'll give you one example. Everyone's aware of the bovine population in the country. We are also aware of the fact that there are bovine deaths, and then there is a very ineffectual and disorganized, unorganized method of carcass disposal. Now, this is a challenge. You need to keep social sentiments in mind. You need to keep religious sentiments in mind. Even though this is India in the 21st century and we are sending rockets to the moon, we still have a very prominent caste system. This leads to interference by local strongmen and local politicians into the operations of a business. It leads to interventions and interruptions by local religious leaders, and it's never solved in one time, right? This is a recurring problem. आज हुआ कल नहीं होगा, आप इस गलतफहमी में मत रहिए. It will happen again and again and again and again. So be prepared and develop your strategy to tackle these. Lastly, the right to market your product or service. Yes, everybody recognizes that, for example, fly ash that's recovered from the incineration of bone meal is very rich in phosphorus, and therefore logic dictates that it should be marketed as a fertilizer. Phosphatic fertilizers are very expensive. So yes, it stands to reason that with the sheer availability of biomass, then this is one quick and fast way to ensure an availability of biological fertilizer resource. But this does not happen. Again, the right to market your product or service is also subject to several regulations. You will also find that because fertilizer companies themselves are in some cases state owned, or in some cases the private ones are those that have very strong political connections, they will preclude you from being able to operate your business in a fair and transparent manner. Next, very important, perhaps most important, is the finance aspect of running a business. Here I've broken it up into three broad heads because this is how we operate. We're still a startup. We're only 3 years old. This is equity, debt, and venture capital. Quite simply, equity means aap kitna paisa daloge. Debt means bank kitna paisa dalegi. And venture capital means कि आपके business partner अगर कोई हो तो वो कितना पैसा डालेंगे. This ultimately determines how you will structure your projects. Relevant to this conversation today, earlier this week, the government announced a 15,000 crore fund called an Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund. Now, according to what the rules are for this fund, it's said that an entrepreneur can bring 10% of capital required to set up a plant, and the balance 90% will be then secured through debt. Plus, the government will offer a 4% interest subvention in backward districts and a 3% interest subvention in other districts. Now, this is a real life example of a fund that essentially, and I'm going to say something quite candidly, offers little to nothing for an investor. Because again, one of the rules says that the return on equity is capped at 15%. So simply put, if you are setting up a plant that is going to cost 10 crores, right? Then you need to be able to invest 1 crore and you can raise 9 crores as debt. On the 1 crore that you have invested, the return on equity can be no more than 15%, which is 15 lakhs, right? Now, this is your return on the equity portion. It does not necessarily mean the profit of the plant. Then you are expected to pay interest on the money that you have raised through debt. Very simply put, as a startup, you are unlikely to get debt from any bank or a non-banking financial corporation for anything less than 14 to 15% per annum. At 9 crores, that works out to 1.35 crore rupees a year in terms of the debt that you need to service. This then makes it very difficult for you as an entrepreneur yourself to say, इतनी मेहनत करके अगर मैं साल में 15 लाख रुपए कमाऊंगा. So then this fund, as good as it sounds, has little to no value to what I am trying to do. So please be aware also of what schemes are on offer and what they mean. This brings me to the next point, which is cash flows. Please optimize your business for cash flows. What does cash flows mean? Right? Cash flows mean is that you will have receivables from your customers, right? Sorry, is may I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Continue, sir.
Ji. So you need to optimize for the cash flows of your business. What this means is that you will have money that you have to receive from your customers. They will typically have anywhere between a 15 to a 45-day billing cycle. That means आपने माल आज बेचा है, आपको पैसे 1.5 महीने बाद मिलेंगे. Please remember that. However, you still need to meet your operating expenses. That includes whatever you need in terms of electricity for your plant, fuel for your vehicle, salaries for your workers, right? Provident fund transfers. All of these things you need to keep paying, but at the same point in time, you will be struggling because your payments have not been received. Then you get into the next challenge or such a business is that then you need to go for a working capital loan. Please do not do that. This is my humble advice to anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur. Do not take a working capital loan, because you are paying interest on money that you will maybe earn 1 year down the road, right? So simply put, today, if you want to buy a car on finance, you pay a deposit, you take some money and you drive away with the car. The car is still with you. A working capital loan means is that you are taking the loan, you are paying the interest, and the car dealer is telling you, I will give you the car 5 years later after you have paid back the full loan, right? And then the car that you get will be 5 years old and it will have depreciated. So that is the challenge with a working capital loan. So which is why do not ever take a working capital loan, and optimize your business for your cash flows from day one. This brings me to the next point. Keep an emergency fund. COVID has taught me the biggest lesson, and that is an emergency fund is the only thing that is keeping us alive, that is keeping us afloat, right? And that ultimately means that even with the supposed 20 lakh crore package that has been announced, a lot of it to be for the benefit of MSME sector, it's all nice, it's all news bites. Ultimately, you need to have enough money, like I said, to cover all your operating expenses. And therefore, over and above optimizing your business for cash flows, please keep an emergency fund. Typically, I would advise you to have 3 months of operating expenses as an emergency fund. At the very minimum, if you can get it up to 6 months, that is fine, right? And lastly, the most important determinant to success, do not throw peanuts to monkeys. And what I mean by this is, if you want to have your business being successful, please remember that professionals who know what they're doing cost money, but they do a good job. And your CXO level hires, that means your chief financial officer, your chief technology officer, even your chief people officer, right? These CXO level appointees ultimately make or break your business. And that's also an aspect now of teamwork, right? If you throw peanuts, you will only be able to hire monkeys. It is a very, very, very poor approach to take in business. This has been precisely why so many sectors of our economy are struggling, right? It's because we've always taken a low cost, low quality approach to our work. Do not do that. So these are a few points to remember to anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur. Next, I'm going to talk very briefly about what the broad trends will be for the future. Here again, the speakers before me have touched upon these points, but obviously number one will be sustainability, and sustainable both from an ecological and economical point of view. So by an ecological point of view, we mean waste management, and under waste management, we mean capturing fugitive emissions. So these could be in the form of oxides of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane, all which are conventionally released through the animal husbandry industry. There are going to be stricter curbs, and these are going to be enforced at a global level, and India will have to comply whether we like it or not. So we need to develop and devise ways to ensure that our agri sector is ecological. There is also the big fear, as we have seen with COVID, of zoonotic diseases. I'm sure all of you as qualified people in this field know a lot more than I do. but from a sustainability perspective and a public health perspective, we need to be aware of an effective method of waste management. Then also the economics, right? No business will run unless it is profitable. So to say कि हाँ इंडिया में स्वच्छ भारत अभियान बहुत ज़रूरी है, शौचालय का उपयोग करना ज़रूरी है, when the economics don't add up, it becomes difficult to implement. And this is the challenge even with a hub and spoke model for processing anything from whey to carcasses to even fecal sludge, which is also a large part of the work that we do. And that is essentially your logistic costs will kill you. India's road infrastructure is poor and patchy in a lot of places. Transporting whether animal carcasses or whey by train to a centralized processing center, which has enough scale to ensure a return on the investment, the cost of transport itself will begin to weigh on it. So in this sense, how you choose to approach these challenges will need to make economic sense also. So just making an ecological argument will not be enough. Next, obviously, is around the question of food security and nutrition. Not just India, but the world is seeing a rapid population growth, rapid urbanization, and also because of the challenges caused as a consequence of anthropogenic emissions, or simply put, man-made climate change. Even the nutrient value of food is reducing. So even though while absolute gross tonnage of various agricultural products are going up, the bioavailability of nutrients to humans and animals and livestock, etc., is barely remaining stable. In some cases, it is depleting. This is also because soil quality is going down, soil alkalinity is going up, microbial content in soil is reducing. So these are big challenges also at a macro level, not just for India, but for other parts of the world. One thing that I'd like to touch upon, which Dr. Meena said earlier, he says that on one level we have waste, on the other level we have malnutrition, and this is an injustice. Yes, this is the injustice of India, right? In almost any agricultural commodity that we could care to name, India is a top 3 producer, whether it's animal or crop based, or even cash crops and food crops. And despite that, we have severe malnutrition. Our metrics for child malnutrition are worse than sub-Saharan Africa. They're worse than Bangladesh. So these are things that we need to be mindful and wary of. And the work that we do has to ensure that there is more equity and inclusion in our society. Next, obviously, is water availability and scarcity. Here I'd like to share with all of you that my work in this field of waste management was prompted by the need to ensure that wastewater was treated more efficiently. And what I have learned over the course of the few years that I've been working is that in India we have enough rainfall as a consequence of our monsoon to support the needs of 300 crore people, right? Which is 2.5 times India's current population. However, it's how we use our water that is a challenge. Now, even within our water usage, so assume there's 100 units of water, right? For a simple example, 88 units of water are used by the agricultural sector. The balance 12 units, 7 units of water are used by the industrial sector, and within that primarily for power generation. Okay, the balance 5% is what is used for domestic consumption. And when I say domestic consumption, I mean it's your eating, your drinking, your cooking of your food, washing of your clothes, taking a bath, etc. Right now, however, water scarcity is most evident to us when we don't have enough water to bathe or enough water to drink, right? But please understand that until and unless we manage and utilize our water resources more judiciously for the agriculture sector, which is taking up 88% of all our fresh water use, and until and unless we can find ways to have better water management in our power sector, till then we will continue to face challenges around water security and water scarcity. That brings me to my next point for a broad trend for the future, and that is around energy. Everything that you do, even in terms of producing livestock feeds or agricultural for humans or whatever is all about energy. And in this sense, what we need to understand is that for the future, the broad trend that we need to be focused on is on harvesting and harnessing bioenergy. For a country like India, the very important statistic that I'd like to leave with all of you is that our aspiration is to generate 175 gigawatts of renewable energy, right? That's about approaching 10% of our net energy needs. Now, just put something else into context is that in India, if we were to harness all the biomass that we have available, even in terms of waste biomass, right? So whether that's fecal sludge from human beings, dairy effluent from our livestock sector, poultry litter, crop residues, forestry byproducts, food processing waste, all of that, right? So that's the available biomass that we have today. We would be able to produce the energy equivalent of 26 million tons of oil, right? So that would be 3 times our gross energy needs net of our petroleum imports, solar, wind, coal-fired thermal power plants, nuclear energy, hydrothermal energy. So please understand that until and unless we see that in India, in the Indian context, that agriculture and waste management can even meet our energy needs, till then we will not be able to take the broader or higher, more necessary policy level changes that we need. And that's why if we can understand how to harness and utilize bioenergy properly, we will then be able to make the proper economical arguments for waste management and not just the ecological arguments. And lastly, all of this will tie into our public health, not just in terms of how we are able to meet sanitation needs for people, but also nutrition and overall the growth and productivity of our population. So these are the broad trends. I still remain very hopeful. I'm very happy to have had the chance to interact with a lot of you today. And I'll be happy to take any questions. There's a link to the website. So thank you for this. Thank you, Dr. Chatli. I will mute my microphone now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harman. It's a really wonderful and the motivating talk about the entrepreneurship. You have started with all the aspects. What are the requirements of the entrepreneur? What is the zeal, ability to take the risk, passion, money management, self-motivation, and your skill. So that's the most important how you can become an entrepreneur. So it's a small idea which can convert into a very big idea. It can be a lot of remunerative also. A lot of questions are being coming up, Harman.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Harman and Dr. Meena and Dr. Pathak. Please come for the questions. So the point which is being coming up after this discussion with relation to the dairy byproducts, meat industry byproduct, and other is that this sector is totally unorganized, and almost 70% of the dairy industry and around 75% of the meat industry is being unorganized. So whatever the byproducts are being coming, they are being in a scattered manner. So how we have to make the collection system? So this is the query being coming from the different corners. Dr. Selvan, Dr. Narendra Babu, and all others are being asking about how the collection system can be managed. So kindly given a light on that, Mr. Harman, can you put in a light on that, how the collection system can be established?
So what I'd like to share with all of you is that what we have tried to do very simply is to use a mobile application or an SMS based, actually not even an app based, but an SMS based system. And by having, so within a district, what we do is for carcass recovery, the vehicles are stationed in and around or close to the clusters where there are medium to large scale dairy farms, right? And we also work very closely with the Panjra poles or what are known as the animal shelters, right? And so what happens is that in the
Lead
event,
के utilization बताना.
so when there is an incidence of carcass mortality, all that needs to be done is an SMS has to be sent regarding the mortality of that carcass in a given region. And then the vehicle which is closest is deployed to collect the carcass. Now that is one sort of an example, right, in terms of how to optimize for a rendering plant. Transport costs are not just the cost of the transport itself, but as all of you would also know, and as I've learned from you, Dr. Chatli, is that until and unless you can get a carcass to a rendering plant in the shortest possible time, the recovery of valuable product from that given carcass by a percentage of its dead weight will reduce. And there is also the challenges towards the processing equipment. So to put very simply, if a carcass mortality has happened more than 24 hours ago, and then that carcass is reaching the plant, the skin pullers will not be as effective in separating the hide from the rest of the carcass. That means that not only do you lose the economic value of the hide itself, but then if you were to cut the carcass into pieces in the pre-breaker before you were to load it in the cooker, then you have the problem with the hair and the fouling of the screw press that is going to be used in the next stage of the rendering plant. So then that is the practical limitation, which is then determined by the speed at which you are able to get the carcass to the rendering plant, right? So not only do you risk under recovery, but you also risk your equipment. So that is why one of the ways to do it is to optimize in terms of your logistics.
Yeah, you said the right thing that it's the most important thing is the interval time between the death of the animal and till it reaches to the rendering unit should be reduced. So it should be on a just similar to the ambulatory services, immediately quick and fast. As the pizza reaches in 30 minutes, so the same is the carcass should also reach to the rendering plant within 30 minutes.
So, which is why now for optimization of business, what we have sought to do is to work with the animal shelters, because the animal shelters are having very, very large holdings. And along with that, they are having overcrowding problem. And so the challenge that has been seen, especially last year, was Maharashtra had a higher than normal monsoon. And there was a lot of flooding, and with that, a lot of drowning deaths of animals, right? And which is why now, by working with the animal shelters, we are able to then utilize one vehicle to recover 4 carcasses at a time. That also ensures that that speed, the importance of keeping a short time between mortality and transport is achieved.
In case of the dairy industry, the collection system can be even better managed because as in case of the dairy industry, we have a milk collection centers are being there. So on a similar pattern in a particular area, and thus we can also establish our dairy byproduct collection centers, so like the whey collection centers and others. And then the whey can be collected and through the insulated vans and others, it can reach to the your whey processing unit. Maybe that's maybe at industrial scale or maybe at a cottage level. So that can be one of the method to collection of the byproducts. Second is that the other question which is being coming up, that is the how to start the byproduct processing unit with respect to the meat industry first, and then about the industry, what are its license requirement, how can you set up that unit. So Dr. Pathak, are you listening? Sorry, Dr. Meena?
Yes, sir.
Sir, Dr. Meena, can you put up how we can start in a whey processing unit, not at a cottage level, maybe at an industrial level? What are its requirement? Can we, what are the license requirement? What can be the capital cost approximately? And how do you think that this is a viable project? How much profitability can come? What can be the break-even ratio?
You shoot a lot of questions, so I will try to answer one by one. Like, yeah, we can start a byproduct processing unit, particularly whey processing unit. There is no harm in that. And first, I will talk about the availability of raw material, that is whey. So, as coming to the previous discussion, like if we can able to recover the whey which is being produced at different places, like the production is scattered, there will be two things. We have a huge dairy plant which is already involved in the production of huge amount of paneer or chena or some casein product. He can have their own huge amount of whey, like 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs. They are producing whey powder. There is no problem to that. Now coming to scattered production, if we can recover it and even we can provide it to some centralized facility, some dairy processing, they can do it. It's not for small scale players because as I told that to produce 1 kg of protein and excluding all the losses from like different whey, chena and this, we need to have at least 300 kg of whey. Okay, so the quantity must be high, and at least we have to aim for 10 ton of powder. So we have to multiply that figure with that. So we have to have 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs whey in stock that that will be viable on commercial scale. Regarding your licensing, so all the licensing which is applicable to dairy like product licensing, we have to go for FSSAI standards, and we have to go for pollution control and this labor law. So all these are applicable, which is normal practice for all the this dairy industry. Apart that, you are asking for viability. We have to look for sir that what is our input cost, what is the cost of input, which dairy byproduct we are targeting on. Like we are subjecting to whey, we want to convert whey to whey powder. Okay, so we need only multiple effect evaporator and dryer, but its cost is low. It is sold less than 100 rupees per kg. If you want to add more value, then you have to have some ultrafiltration plant, some demineralization plant, and apart from whey powder, like high protein powder, you have to have a facility for lactose production as well, because when you are subjecting your whey to ultrafiltration, the protein portion will be concentrated, but the permeate will containing lactose, and lactose is also a huge value ingredient. So we have to have different plants, combination of plants. So we have to set up in that way. Then it will be economically viable with respect to sound technical knowledge, particularly of membrane processing, because these are sophisticated plants. And in India, still people are not very comfortable with these plants because we work so far, or somehow we are still having mentality like, okay, chalta hai wo wali, but it is not going to work with membrane plant because they have to be monitored and operated in a very strict manner with respect to the manufacturer guidelines. So if we are able to take these challenges, these plants is going to be economically viable, and there is a huge demand in our country. We can meet it. That is the case, sir.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Meena. So there is the other question which is being coming up again and again. That's how Dr. Patak still not there. So Harman,
He is there. You have. He has to unmute his mic.
Okay, hello. Now you are listening,
yes,
Dr. Manish.
yeah, I can listen you. So one question being coming up again and again. That's regarding the setting up of a blood processing unit or others. So blood, no doubt, blood meal is being prepared and everything can be done. But how it can be managed at a different slaughterhouses?
Basically, the blood collection system in the slaughterhouses, if we go for slaughterhouses also, you know that it is not very efficient, because whenever we are slaughtering the animals, so the slaughtering is done on the basically by the halal method. It is done on the floor also. So the collection, hygienic collection of the blood is very important. And as far as processing is concerned, it will depend upon the different. Dr. Kumar also asked this question, and I try to answer, because the easiest way is to prepare the meal. So that does not require any other basically complicated equipments, and also doesn't require the use of very strict hygienic, you can say, compliances, because basically it is going to be used in the feed purposes. But as such, when we are going for the medicinal uses of the blood of the different components, so obviously it has to be very hygienically collected, and then the different components, maybe you want plasma, maybe you want something else, maybe other components, maybe you are going to make the using the media. or etc., whatever the preparations you can say. So there be requirement. Then also there is one important thing that you are also well aware, Dr. Mani, that we cannot say blood is not edible. Whenever the slaughtering is done, a lot of fraction of people, they use it for the edible purposes also, and it is being used in our country also. This is very you can say true, that it is cooked and it is being eaten also. And moreover, when we talk of much of the population, that obviously we can this as it is in the Europe, the blood 20 or 30% of blood they are using in the different commodities like sausages, loaves, etc. So that is not possible. So as far as the blood processing plant as such, you can say that obviously it has to be we have to ensure that blood collection system is good, and the medicinal parts they can be used, because these are not very cheap and they are being sold at the higher rates. And it is again advisable that we have to have one integrated plants also. In slaughterhouses we have integrated plants, but that integrated plants, they are limited to the basically effluent treatment plants, as well as you can say some of the rendering system. Anything else?
I just want to inform our audiences that the Dr. Pathak has worked on the blood meals, especially the blood protein hydrolysates in his PhD program. So he has done a wonderful work that he has converted the blood into the blood protein hydrolysate. The main point of concern in the utilization of the blood into the edible portion is that it's a red color, which is very offensive. So he has removed that color and it comes as a white powder and it can be utilized in any of the food product. So this is a very wonderful achievement by Dr. Vikas Pathak. So the other question which has been coming up again and again from Mr. Harban, can you listen me?
Yes, sir.
So can you share some success story of coming value from the waste, as the motto of your organization is being there? Some people those have come up. Even I just want to have your story, success story in that context, so that it can motivate our the students as well as the other those who have a zeal towards the entrepreneurship.
So I don't know if there are any success stories that I have to share at this point in time. The business is still not very profitable. So there is a lot of work to be done. But we have a patent on the process. I'm happy to report that last year, my patent got published by the India Patent Journal, and that my design patent now for an improved fecal sludge treatment plant is currently under review. Last year, we also received recognition from the government of New Zealand. We got selected into the Edmund Hillary Fellowship. So we are now setting up a couple of plants in New Zealand. So these are small steps forward, but it's still a very long way to go. We are not hyper profitable yet. And you know, the startup world in India at least is so consumed with mega multi-million dollar and billion-dollar valuations of e-commerce and Internet of Things startups, that a waste management startup working with carcass recovery and fecal sludge management, it's not something that people talk about. So it's slow going. I won't really say that we have been very successful so far, but yeah, we are happy with the progress we have.
Thank you. So there is a lot of scope is being there, as everybody has discussed that we have a lot of biomass available with us, and the industry can utilize those biomass. So we are being slaughtering around 220 million animals annually, and around 1,250 million birds annually. So you can imagine the amount of the biomass being produced by them. So there is a one question by the Dr. Sandeep Rinde from Nagpur, that Dr. Meena, you can answer that he's been I want to ask about the how we can set up a cheese processing unit, just very precisely. So can you answer, please?
Yeah, I can answer, sir. It's not a big deal. setting it this, but I want to share this slide in reply of this. Kindly visit our these sites. NDRI being a hub of knowledge, we are having more than 200 scientists in different groups like production, processing, and management. We are serving the nation in terms of providing training, contract research, and consultancies. So these are the addresses for them. Whoever want to come for training in dairy product, dairy processing, animal rearing, animal production, milk production. So I think that goes to that that part, sir. Yeah, we can set up a dairy plant, cheese plant, but he has to answer some of the basic questions: which type of cheese he want to produce, and what is the capacity, and what about he has to make some groundwork, like where he want to set up, what is the cost, and all these things. So without giving me all these details, I cannot say that okay, that will be the cost of a particular cheese plant, because it is very subjective. It varies with respect to type of cheese, capacity, and all these factors are going to influence it, and he has to have a detailed report about that, and he can contact to our this particular center that is known as our business planning and development unit consultancy cell. I have shared these contact details, and even he can come through this NDRI website and he will get the answers out of all these questions. And those who are want to contact in this direction, or who have queries about all these things, please contact through these links. That's what I can tell well.
Thank you very much. So we have a lot of discussion on that, and I just want to share in the end that what are the facilities at Guru Angad Dev Veterinary University at Department of Livestock Products Technology have. We have a very broad infrastructure. We have a semi-automatic poultry processing plant, which we are being running successfully on under public-private partnership mode, and we are being slaughtering 250 birds per hour speed, and almost 3,000 birds per day. And in addition to that, especially in case of the Corona period, when there was a big problem with the poultry industry, we have served to the farmers. The farmers, broiler farmers came to us. We did slaughtering, then finally processing, packaging, and then blast freezing, so that they can save their produce and they can store it for the next 2-3 months and sell it out. So almost 1 lakh birds we have slaughtered in this COVID period. And we have a very good facilities for the product packaging unit. We are having all the facilities for the testing of the packaging material, especially. We are also working on the value addition and a lot of value added products with respect to the meat, as well as the meat, eggs, and others are coming up. So I'm sharing the slide also here, just to show you a little bit about our department. So what the facilities we have one meat proteomic and biotechnology laboratory also. We are working a lot on the protein hydrolysates, proteomics, and then the micro encapsulation technologies, how we can extend the shelf life of the produce. And we have also one project that's a DVT project on the pet food development. We have a twin screw extruder also. We are developing the different types of the pet foods with respect to the different species specific, means the age of the animal, also age of the dogs, age, the breed specificity. Then we are also with respect to the disease condition. If some animal is being diseased, so what are his requirement? According to his requirement, we are developing the different pet foods. So this is being little bit about our department. We are extending the consultancy services. More than 25 technologies we have already transferred to the different entrepreneurs, and we are doing a lot of extension work we are doing. So in the last 5 years, we have organized around 45 training programs for the farmer and others. We have a good impact value also. Almost 48% of our trainee, they are working. They have started their entrepreneurship, or they are working into some of the meat processing units like that. So this is a little bit about our department. So in the end, I want to thank all the experts, especially Mr. Harman, who agreed. He's been a lot of busy appointments, lot of appointments was being there, but still he took out the time from his appointments. Then Dr. Vikas Pathak. So yeah, I want to thank Dr. Vikas Pathak for all his efforts and everything, and especially the Dr. Meena from NDRI. Thank you very much, sir. So all of you are being really wonderful, and your lectures were being a lot of information was being there, and it was being a motivating for our all the participants. So
thank you, Dr. Manish.
so in the end, I just want to make an excuse to all our participants also. There were being more than 800 registration, which we not expected even. So it's been very overwhelming response to the talk. So we are being really being thankful. We are being little sorry that we are unable to accommodate all. It is only the 100 people are being there. We are being in the process of recording all this content of the content, and we may place all these content on Facebook, Gadwasu Facebook also. So the information will be available to you. Actually, I just want to remind all of our participants that we are going to share the feedback form. So kindly fill that feed form, and return it back to us, so that only on receipt of the feedback form we will issue the certificates. So it is being compulsory that the feedback form should be sent, and really it will be being thankful. Now I am handing over mic to our colleague Dr. Rajesh Wagh. Dr. Rajesh Wagh and Dr. O.P.Malav, along with Dr. Shiva Kumar, these three were the coordinators who were being managing all the technical hitches as well as the managing all the this show. So I am really thankful to all of you, Dr. Shiva Kumar, Dr. Rajesh Wagh, and Dr. O.P.Malav. We are really being thankful to you. So for a formal vote of thanks, I request Dr. Rajesh Wagh to take care. Finally, Dr. Rajesh Wagh.
Thank you very much, sir. So, dear participants, from the organizing team, I would like to thank our speakers, Dr. Harman sir. Thank you very much for your insights on the recent things about the entrepreneurship, and your talk was really inspiring, sir. Thank you very much for that. I would like to thank Dr. Vikas Pathak sir. Vikas Pathak sir highlighted about the animal byproducts, and thank you very much, sir. Your lecture was really nice and informative. I would like to thank our speaker from NDRI Karnal, Dr. G.S. Mina sir. Thank you very much, Mina sir. You highlighted about the dairy byproduct industries, and I hope participants will definitely contact you. Here, I would like to tell the participants that we are going to share the contact number of our speakers also, so that if you have any queries in the future, you can definitely contact to all those speakers also. So I would like to thank the IDP, the sponsor for this webinar, and I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor sir, who encourages us to organize such a nice webinar. I would like to thank our Dean sir, Prakash Singh sir, who encourages us also to organize this webinar. So thank you very much, all participants. Without all of you, it is not possible for us to make this event successful. I hope that you all gain the better understanding after attending this seminar. And if you have any queries, I'm going to share the numbers of organizing teams also in future. I hope we will make one strong bond. So thank you very much, sir. Here I'm going to end the session now, and after that I'm going to share one feedback form on WhatsApp group, so that after getting feedbacks, I will dispatch the hard copies of the certificates to the participants. Is it? So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Wagh.
Yeah. Thank you, Manish sir, and the audience. So,
Bye bye.
Bye bye, sir.
Bye.